any student or any candidate for student who has just started out his career, and for candidates who are working in a very different field, but they are also interested to get into ESG or sustainability, what
Right.
should be an ideal path for them?
Someone who's already in the space for, let's say, or who's a working professional for around, let's say, 6 7 years, 8 years, someone who's all, we can say, probably early mid-career sort of. For
Right.
them, shift becomes a little more risky because it will not be possible for them to start from the ground. They might have certain situations, right?
And what are the key skill set that anybody who is working in this space, okay, what ideally those key skill sets they should know?
Basic understanding of ESG and sustainability is important. So understand key concepts like what do we mean by circularity. Be good with Excel. Excel is a heavily underrated skill, I feel. A lot of work essentially gets done on Excel. Okay, so be good at Excel.
I'm just thinking slightly loud, and I'm just trying to understand if I am a student or I'm a working professional with 2 years of experience, I want to get into sustainability. Is it possible for me to showcase my interest by taking some data available and say run it through Power BI, run it through Excel, and just create something and give commentaries on that?
Absolutely.
Hello guys, I hope everybody is doing good. Hi, this is Ganesh Nayak. I help finance professionals and students to excel in their career and become a better version of themselves. And I also help students preparing for competitive exams like CFA, FRM, and SCR. And in order to help students to perform better, not only in the exam, but also in corporate life, so we have got a lot of podcasts where we call people from the industry to talk about certain topic, talk about their experience and how it can benefit the audience who are going for these competitive exams. And as a part of that journey, we have got Amitava. He has 8 years of experience into consulting, analytics, and project management, and he's going to be sharing his journey into sustainability consulting and what all things you can learn from him. So, Amitava, thank you very much for talking to us and taking out time. And for the benefit of the audience, if you can give a brief snapshot about your journey till now.
Right. Thanks, Ganesh, for having me over. And to give you a little brief about my journey, academically, I'm a mechanical engineering graduate. And once I did that, I worked for around 3 years in analytics, pure play analytics, with a little stint in an NGO for around half a year. Then I moved into the space of sustainability. So to bridge between analytics and sustainability, I pursued a master's course in business sustainability from TERI in Delhi. And
Okay.
post that, for the last 6 years, for 5.5, 6 years, I have been working purely in the ESG and sustainability space. So I started with a small tech consulting firm, which was essentially developing ICT solutions for the social sector. So developing,
Okay.
let's say, developing things like a donor management system, a survey management system, data collection setups, but aimed for the social sector, so NGOs, foundations, and all of those. Post that, I moved into a more of an ESG centric role. So I was working with this firm called Arabesque. They are based out of Delhi, and they essentially work in the space of sustainable finance. They use AI to recommend, to generate insights and recommend investment decisions to various FIIs, to various financial institutions and other
Okay.
organizations, right? Portfolio managers. And then around a year and a half, I was involved with an organization called ISS ESG, Institutional Shareholder Services.
Yeah.
They are again in the same space of basically building products for investors and financial institutions and portfolio managers, which basically help all these stakeholders understand how their portfolio is performing across ESG metrics. How can they, let's say, move funds from a particular, move money from a particular fund to another fund which is performing better on ESG. So
Okay.
that's what I was working on. Lately, I've been involved with one of the big fours at as a consultant, and now my focus area is more on ESG analytics and building digital solutions, which sort of
Okay.
accelerate the journey of an organization, to achieve the sustainability goals, to decarbonize.
Right.
So that's a brief of my career so far.
Okay. Okay.
I also consult with a few independently with a few startups here and there on ESG aspects. So there was a carbon management tool 2 3 years back I consulted for. Then other small a budget hospitality startup. So that's essentially where my whole work area is.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, what sparked your interest to go into that master's program and
Right.
start exploring the world of sustainability?
Right. So, sustainability wise, I would say I had a general knack for environment as such in life. I have always been involved
Okay.
in, NGOs which work with the environment, which work with animals, and wanted to build a career in that area. But unfortunately, the general engineering story, which pretty much everyone else has. So, got into engineering, got into analytics. And then
Okay.
while I was in analytics, I realized that this is a skill set which I could actually leverage to
Anyway.
follow my passion into, it's a skill set which you can use pretty
Right.
much across all industries. So I thought I could use this to see towards environmental protection if I can get into that.
Hmm.
But I did not have that bridge to get into that space directly.
Okay.
So that's why I came across Terry. A little bit about Terry. Terry is one of like the older institutes in
Hmm.
India which has been focusing purely on sustainability. I think they came across around in 2000, 2001. So over the
Okay.
last 24, 25 years, they have been working the space and one of the most sought after institutes.
Yeah.
So uh, people can check it up if they are looking to build a
No,
career
no.
there.
Yeah, it's a very, very good institute.
Mhm.
I've heard its name, and
Mhm.
it's basically an energy focused institute initially started out,
Correct.
and then they branched out into sustainability, ESG, and all of
Right,
that also.
right. So they then branched on to sustainable development, climate policies, the
Hmm.
legal aspects of climate change. So all of that they
Okay.
have.
Okay.
So that's how I jumped into Terry, which was again a great experience. I mean, I saw how I could use my skill sets and then learned a lot of new concepts.
Okay.
So,
But in
and that's
that master's program, analytics was not a part of it. It was just your skill set that you utilized it. Correct?
correct, correct. So in the
Okay.
master's program, what I learned was firstly the basics of ESG and sustainability, which I believe is super important for anyone getting into this field. So
Hmm.
the basic concepts of water emissions, what is like we are talking about ESG today, but under ESG there are various sub modules and sub topics, right? So
Right.
understanding about each of those topics, what they are, how they
Right.
impact businesses, how it impacts the world. So all of that
Hmm.
learning happened there. Similarly, the awareness about sustainability. Earlier, it was my focus was mostly on environment because that's what I was passionate about. But learning about the social aspects, learning about the governance aspect, why governance is so important for an organization, and especially organizations of scale. That learning happened there, and then so subject matter, skill set. Post that, it was always about marrying that subject matter and the skill set and going ahead and seeing, hey, can I create value out of this? So yeah.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. So now, if any student or any candidate
Hmm.
who's for student who has just started out his career, and for candidates who are working in a very different field, but they are also interested to get into ESG or sustainability, what
Right.
should be an ideal path for them?
Right. So I'll start with someone who's, let's say, early in their career or just a student. So you are in a
Hmm.
relatively better position because, I mean, the world is your oyster, right? So you can initially, if you have a non-sustainability related background. So let's say you have
Right.
not done an environmental science or a social science, any of these or aspects, then what I would recommend is reading up about or taking these free courses which are online on the basics of ESG and sustainability. So there's a bunch of
Right.
courses, Coursera, on LinkedIn, on Udemy. So free courses just to get an idea. Then from there you learn how to Google better and what to talk about. So ask better
Right.
questions. You know. So you can start with those that aspect for someone in the who's just graduated or in the first 2 years,
Hmm.
and then look for opportunities in that field. So maybe an internship, maybe another position which is a junior position, because see the first 2 3 years you have a lot of risk taking capacity, right? So
Right.
that doesn't matter. Someone who's already in the space for, let's say, or who's a working professional for around, let's say, 6 7 years 8 years,
Hmm.
someone who's all, we can say, probably early mid career sort of, for
Right.
them shift becomes a little more risky because it will not be possible for them to start from the ground. They might have certain situations, right?
Right.
um, those cases, what I would recommend is figure out what your transferable skill sets are. So if
Hmm.
you're in marketing or if you're in sales, those, there are some core skill sets which are there which can be used in the area of sustainability also. Okay. Like if I give my example, I was doing data analytics. Data and analytics is a skill set which you can use in finance, you can use in marketing, sustainability, 100 places. So what are these transferable skill sets? Figure it out. Similar to the new people who are joining in, learn about the key concepts. Maybe
Hmm.
not in the detail, not in the detail which someone 10 years younger to you is learning, but at least an overview of it, how things relate to each other. And then, since you're already within an organization, try look out if there are any opportunities within the organization, because
Okay.
another organization hiring you who does not have the background is much lower probability, right? So within the organization, make friends with colleagues who are working in, let's say, the sustainability team, the compliance, the CSR teams. Talk to them. Hey, what sort of projects do you do? What is
Okay.
your daily work life? This is what I do. Do you think we can collaborate on something? Companies
Hmm.
also,
Okay.
allow or encourage internal collaborations quite a bit. So that's how I would recommend someone
And
with years in this space working.
is it recommended that suppose you do some project with NGOs
Hmm.
first, and then you look for some opportunity within a company, even if you are a work experience of 6 7 years?
Yeah, so any sort of exposure or experience, wherever it comes from, it's always helpful
Hmm.
because it just helps you build the one is your own experience in terms of how things work, and from the
Right.
interviewer's perspective, the credibility that all right, the person did not have that background, but they have worked in these two three things. So shows the passion, shows the intent that the person has.
Right.
So any sort of work, I mention organization because it's easier to collaborate within organizations and to find another organization or party, third party, NGO, anyone outside.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah.
Okay. And what are the key skill set that anybody who is working in this space,
Hmm.
okay, what ideally those key skill sets they should know?
Right. So, skill set wise, if I break it down, one is soft skills. I think it goes without saying is important uh, pretty much everywhere, unless I'm guessing you're a hardcore software developer or coder, right? So, soft skills are super important here. You
Hmm.
need to know how to talk to people across the hierarchy. So, right from the CEO to the
Okay.
worker in the factory, you should have
Hmm.
be able to communicate with each of them. And when I say
Okay.
communicate, not just talk to them, but push your ideas to them. So make sure that they align with your ideas and they understand you. So soft skills are super important. So reading, doing a lot of research. Because the sustainability space is evolving quite a bit. I think SEBI came out with some new guidelines today itself on BRSR. So
Okay.
uh,
Okay.
a lot of global guidelines are also there. So make sure you read a lot. That's a very important skill set to have. Improve on your communication. In terms of the technical setup, basic understanding of ESG and sustainability is important. So understand key concepts like what do we mean by circularity? What do you mean by
Hmm.
materiality and double materiality?
Right.
How do emissions impact? I'm not saying go get into the scientific details of it completely, but overall how it impacts a business, how it impacts an individual, the relationship between them, have a fair understanding of that. The second bit, which is important on the technical side, is general analysis, data analytics, and reporting. Okay,
Hmm. Hmm.
be good with Excel. Excel is a heavily underrated skill. I feel a lot of work essentially gets done on Excel. Okay, so be good
Right.
at Excel. Uh, Learn how to make pivots, learn how to make graphs, learn how to make charts. Do some basic data analytics courses. Again, I'm saying basics. Most of us analyze information on a daily basis. It's just that we do not do in a formal process, right? So have
Okay.
that formal process mindset in your mind. On the technical side, I would say these two are quite important: the subject matter knowledge and the data analysis skill set. The rest you can learn on the go. If someone is focused on the financial aspects of ESG or wants to make a career in that area, then yes, please be familiar with the finance related concepts also. Again, basics. Considering you're starting maybe on this is for people between year 0 to year 5 in the field, start with
Okay.
the basics of finance. So
Okay.
yeah, those three skill sets in the technical side, and on the soft skill side, awareness is very important, like I mentioned. Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful. Wonderful. And when we talk about consulting, okay,
Hmm.
consulting into the sustainability space, so what all sub areas are there? So one aspect is where you are working, like I'm providing technology
Hmm.
solutions, okay, or technology related consulting for
Right.
sustainability related softwares or companies, correct? But what is the other side?
Hmm. Right. So the other side of consulting could vary from it. So if I look at an organization, if you look at an organization's journey into sustainability, they are most organizations in this country today are at a zero. Very few of them are at, let's say, on a scale of
Yeah.
0 to 100, there are
Yeah.
probably at, very few of them are at 80 and above. Okay. So
Hmm.
in this whole journey, the consulting aspect fits in, like right from zero. So what do I do in my ESG journey? Designing an ESG strategy for an organization. That's a consulting gig. Understanding the material aspects of an organization. So depending on which industry, which geography you belong to, the material aspects. That means the issues which impact you as a company will be different. So doing materiality analysis as a consulting gig, that's another aspect. Designing decarbonization strategies. So I know that over the last 3-4 years you have emitted this much carbon, okay, or have this much emission. So how do I decarbonize my value chain? How do I can I have an ESG strategy for my supply chain, greening of supply chain? Let's say that is a consulting
Okay.
opportunity again. Creating awareness or training internally within the organization or the stakeholders
Okay.
falls under the purview of consulting. Um,
Okay.
Having a circularity strategy, developing a CSR strategy, um, developing project plans for all of these. All of these will fall under the consulting setup.
Okay.
So this is in the pure play consulting, what, let's say, a PwC, KPMG, all of them do. Yeah, and on the sustainable finance side also, there is a sort of consulting which goes into, let's say, second party opinions, and then doing due diligence. So those are another set of consulting gigs which you can take up. So yeah, but basically that's the range of consulting, apart from the technology and analytics consulting which I'm currently involved in, where you're
Okay.
essentially recommending good tools or good digital solutions to facilitate the sustainability journey, ESG
Okay.
journey.
But having like for example, industry specific knowledge, because we talked about
Hmm.
supply chain, we have talked about giving guidance on how to green the
Hmm.
entire supply chain or any specific part. So people who are coming with say 10 years of experience into a particular industry,
Hmm.
they can also do sustainable related part, but do they
Absolutely.
get opportunity outside because they're a subject matter expert?
Right. So now see, when we talk about green, let's take supply chain as an example. When we talk about
Right.
greening of the supply chain, the key component there is still the supply chain, which this person has 10-12 years of experience on, right? The greening of it, the sustainability aspect of it is just another layer. So as long as they are aware of that, they have learned that layer of have that layer of knowledge, they can absolutely move into greening of the supply chain. So someone who is working automobile as an industry is heavily dependent, is a like a very comprehensive supply chain dependent industry, right?
Right.
So people who are working in that supply chain, if they actually gain that knowledge on ESG and sustainability, and then they can actually take up specialized courses. So if you go to a Coursera today, you go to an Udemy today, you'll find courses on supply chain sustainability. There are certifications in supply chain sustainability also. There's a platform called
Right.
EcoVadis.
Hmm.
EcoVadis focuses purely on supply chain, mostly on supply chain. I shouldn't say purely, but
Okay.
mostly on supply chain. SA 8000 is another, which again focuses on the social aspects of supply chain.
Hmm.
So let's say I, as an individual, have worked 10 years in supply chain. I know how the procurement is done, how the logistics is done, and I know there's a lot of emissions which actually happens from there. Then if I
Right.
actually gain the knowledge on sustainability, I could very easily transition into that area. And right now, because the space is quite new, you find a lot of people with variety of backgrounds actually coming in and then picking up the skills and fitting into the roles. But I think 5 years, 10 years down the line, you will have specialists in these areas. You already have specialists in the areas of green buildings already,
Right.
right?
Right.
On specialists on green energy. So similarly for other areas, specialization will slowly start happening. Right now it is not so specialized, but so it actually gives people with a variety of backgrounds, to actually come to the forefront, like, let me try it out. So yeah.
Okay. So a banker with around 10 years of experience
Yeah.
can first definitely move into sustainable finance because he has a finance angle
Yes.
of it. But he can
Yes.
also, because suppose if I'm a banker and I'm lending to agribusiness, so I can also enter into sustainability related to agriculture because I might know certain things, how the work happens, how the finance moves into that area.
Right. Right. And you can design products in that area. So banking is actually,
Okay.
a lot of sustainability initiatives. Sustainability initiative is driven by if the finance is available or not, pretty much, right?
Right. Right.
So if you're
Yes.
sitting at a financial institution level, as a banker, you have very good. You are very quite capable of actually designing products which are very ESG centric, which are very sustainability
Okay.
centric. Maybe design a simple example would be vehicular loans, which are given out, right? As a banker, you're doing, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
vehicular loans. Today, a regular vehicle ka loan, your interest rate is, let's say, 10 to 12%. I'm not sure. I'm just giving you a general
Yeah,
figure.
yeah, yeah. Oh,
But EV ka vehicle, for that, the interest rate would probably be less than 10%. It'll be 9.59%. So designing products like that, designing mutual fund products. If you're coming from the investment banking side,
yes.
designing funds which are ESG funds. So all of these are opportunities. Um,
Okay.
you can do due diligence if you have to, let's say, disburse a loan. Okay, and you have three options. You can do an ESG analysis of those three options and see which one will have is a more resilient business, from where
Okay.
your expectation of return is higher. So they are very well placed to actually move into the ESG setup. In fact, a lot of courses today are targeted towards finance professionals. The CFA one, let's say, which you mentioned,
Ah.
right? Then the GARP, which is also there, that is sustainability and climate risk, the
Hmm.
SCR thing.
Yes,
So
yes, yes.
directed at risk and finance professionals. They are very well placed. Supply chain, finance,
Okay.
these two folks are very well placed to get into this space. Compliance folks, assurance people
Okay.
to use
Assurance
existing
also.
skills.
Process
Yeah,
assurance people.
because right now, so ESG reporting has really picked up, right? So GRI came around first in 2012, 2014, I guess, around that time, or
Yeah.
might be earlier, 2012 is earlier, yeah. So that is voluntary, but in India, SEBI has mandated BRSR, and the mandate now includes that 40 out of the 140 indicators which are there have to have reasonable assurance. Okay, so that means the assurance people are also going in. And that is the 40 core indicators they have said. Now the ambit will keep on increasing. They are doing it slowly so that people have the time to ramp up, and then they will increase the ambit. It will Assurance will spread to the supply chain people also. And yeah, so there's quite a lot of opportunity in audit and assurance in that setup.
So
And the
basically, sorry, what I understood is that
actually,
somebody
uh,
is
yeah.
sorry, Amita. So somebody is, suppose if there is a company who has a huge supply chain, and they are
Hmm.
basically saying that my supply chain is 80% green. So internally, they will have people who are going to verify it before the auditors
Internally,
come.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Internally, there will be people who will be verifying it. Then the external auditors are onboarded. They will verify if that is all right or not. They will recommend then process changes in, let's say, the calculation bit or the data collection bit, or there are some
Right.
gaps which they think is incorrectly reported. Numbers incorrectly reported. So all those recommendations then have to be fit into the company's processes, so that next year they are actually better prepared, or their audit rating is higher.
Okay.
And actually, the last point which I was trying to expand on was audit is also becoming super important, because there's a lot of greenwashing which is happening. And there's a lot of greenwashing, and there's another couple of terms I'm unable to place right now. But
Decoupling.
so decoupling is a different setup. I'm saying greenwashing and overselling things. So when companies
Uh,
claim that they're doing something, but it is not actually till the extent they're doing. Okay, so they are saying that, oh, we recycle our clothes, but what you essentially see is that of the 100 clothes they have taken back, only 5 of them have been recycled, and the other 95 have gone into landfill. But they have claimed that they have recycled. So
okay.
5% is
Okay.
barely any recycling, right? So all of this has to be prevented. So that is why, again, auditing is coming into picture right now. Assurance is coming into picture. Financial institutions are focusing on due diligence, right? Because they want to invest their money. Similarly, if earlier investments were made based on your financial numbers, that would get audited. Now it is
Hmm.
based on ESG numbers, so ESG numbers have to get audited. So
Okay.
audit assurance is a big market right now.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. And I'm just thinking slightly loud, and I'm just trying to understand if I am a student or I'm a working professional with 2 years of experience. I want to get into sustainability. Is it possible for me to showcase my interest by taking some data available and say run it through Power BI, run it through Excel, and just create something and give commentaries on that?
Absolutely. So as of date, on the NSE website, you will find the BRSR reports for all the companies which are reported. It's a catalog there. Okay. And that has a lot of quantitative information, a lot of qualitative information that's standardized. Download maybe 10 of those reports, do a comparative analysis, download 10 reports from the same sector, You can do an analysis multiple ways: similar market cap, similar sector, similar geography,
Right.
target audience, whatever. Do an analysis that, oh, this person has improved from point A to point B, while the industry has actually not improved so much. So this guy can be a leader. I mean, data is quite, it's slowly becoming more available, so it gives you the opportunity. And great way to pick up learn your Excel and Power BI skills, actually, which is again very important. So,
Yes. Because
yeah.
now when I am talking to a lot of students who are keen, the
Hmm.
major question that comes to your mind is, okay, I will do X certification, I'll learn the knowledge, but how do I practically connect it?
Correct, yeah.
Because a lot of companies, they want experience,
Yes,
right? And internship opportunities might not be directly available into that.
right,
So
right.
how do we connect back and do that?
So on certifications, I think what I would like to say, Ganesh, is that right in the beginning of the career, I don't think certifications play so much of a role, because
Hmm.
you really don't know a lot, right? Practical experience is on the minimal side, lower side.
Hmm.
Your knowledge is also on the lower side. Now, theoretical knowledge is one thing, and the practical application of it is a different thing, right?
Right.
Um, so I ideally you work for the first 2 3 years, figure out the different areas which are there. Maybe even for the first 4 5 years also, work 2 years in sustainable finance, work a couple of years in reporting, work a couple of years in assurance, try it out, and
Right.
then figure out what works for you, and then go for the certification setup, because certifications are also they don't come cheap.
Hmm.
They are expensive affairs. I don't think any certification is less than like $150 $200 these days, right? So
Right.
and plus the certifications also have a validity for maybe 2 years or so. It is not like one certificate done and you're set for the life. No.
Right. Right.
So maybe get 4 4 5 years once you're working, then get into the certification space.
Hmm.
Or the other use cases, when someone, like you mentioned right earlier, 10 years in supply chain, they know in and out about supply chain, wants to move into green supply chain, then you do a then you do a certification, because you already have that experience and the knowledge to actually leverage that certification, and the material to build on it. So yeah, certification the first 2 3 years, I don't think it's that's my opinion, that it's not very good, maybe.
Okay. Okay. Wonderful. I mean, and finally, I want you to give one advice that you got from somebody else regarding your career, and if regarding sustainability career possible.
Right. So I think one thing is, keep learning, learn and unlearn, because the pace at which information is being shared and information is being generated is super quick. What was valid 5 years back is not valid right now.
Right.
In a space like sustainability, especially, which is so interdisciplinary, so multidimensional, a change in one area will impact all the other areas. So keep learning. Yeah, and also one more thing is, if a solution works in one area, it will not necessarily work in another area, in another company which belongs to the same sector or something, because they have very individualistic problems which you have to address, right? So be ready to learn and be ready to adapt, especially in sustainability, and generally I think as a professional in the 21st century, one has to keep doing that. So
Right, right, wonderful. And this is a very good point, because the moment you start learning, you dedicate, say, like around 100 hours of reading online, you start becoming better, and you become better than the rest of the audience who's actually your competition. So
exactly.
that is where in your, and when you go to interviews also,
Huh.
when you start speaking, people realize that whether you are actually we have
Hmm.
the knowledge or not.
Right,
It
right,
shows in your way you speak, the knowledge you talk
right.
about, and that is where you get selected.
Uh,
Right.
and I mean, companies mandate, in my present organization, we are mandated for 40 to 60 hours of learning per year for sure. Like that's a part of our KPI. You have to complete those things. So
Okay.
organizations also focusing on learning, right?
Okay.
And sustainability in the last 10 years, frameworks
Hmm.
have undergone so many changes. So if you learned a framework 5 years back, it is probably not valid today. There are
Ha.
some
Right.
nuances which is, so you'll have to keep learning, otherwise you'll lose out. Um, and which is why, again, my recommendation is always keep try out. And see, I had the privilege to try out 3 4 different things before I got into this space. Not
Hmm.
everyone has it. But yeah, try out different things, find your passion. I would Passion is an overrated word, but find which interests you, which you enjoy, because so that the learning becomes also fun, it doesn't become
Right.
boring.
Right.
um,
Right.
So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Wonderful. I mean, Amitava, this is going to be very interesting, very motivational for a lot of students, young professionals who are looking for opportunity to get into the space of ESG sustainability. So thank you
Right.
again for taking out time and talking to us.
Thank you, Inish. It was lovely chatting.